Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 multiplayer action. Sorry I sound like an 80-year-old man, guys. I'm still afflicted with a little bit of Nurgle's plague, but I wanted to give myself a little bit of a break from feeling bad, so I'm gonna choose to do a video regardless of if my voice sounds like crap, which it absolutely does. Speaking of healing, I've got everyone's least favorite healer here today, Alariel the Radiant, gonna be taking on the High Elves up against the foul Greenskins. So we've got Azag the Slaughterer leading the way here. It's got Spirit Leech and Fate of Buna. There is also an Orc Shaman on the ground, a couple of Black Orcs. We've got Orc Air Boys, Rusty Airs, a mix of Skulkers and Orc Boys up front with a couple of Biggins as well. Regiment of Renowned Warlords boys. And yeah, that's pretty much it for myself. We've got, of course, Alariel and the Phoenix. A couple of Illyrian Reaver Archers, including the Heralds of the Wind. Regiment of Renown, 4 melee reavers up front. We've also got 2 units of Dragon Princes, 1 each hidden in the woods, and a line of spearmen also hidden on this ridge here. And obviously, since I have a very much cav-centric force, I'm going to be trying to get as many good mobile engagements as I can. You can see Arcane and Forging goes down on Azag here. That is going to put a recharge on Wa, so he can't use it on the initial engagement, and of course also keeps him from being able to use his other abilities in addition to doing some direct damage. So pretty good stuff there. Meanwhile, just doing some skirmishing, getting some good damage done on these the regular Biggins here, not Boar Boys. Just Foot Sloggas. They've got 50 armor, but no missile block chance, so they will take a pretty good amount of damage. You can see the Reavers burst from the woods there. We got a quick terror out on those Skulkers, and now we're going to be charging into these Orc Boys here. It's trying to defeat in detail as many units as we can with our superior mobility here. My opponent's only unit of Cav is this unit of Mangy Marauders over in the corner here, so definitely have a pretty substantial mobility advantage, and therefore we can kind of dictate the pace of the engagement. I also want to see if we can't bait Azag into an unfavorable engagement here. Looks like an Eerie Go had been cast to help support melee attacks, so definitely don't want to stick around there. But Alariel the Radiant going to be kind of used to bait Azag into a melee engagement here. She does have pretty significant melee defense, but it's still very risky to risk her in a straight-up fight against Azag like this. So I bring in the Phoenix here to support, and between the two of them, I'm pretty confident that we can take Azag down. You can see he is taking some pretty significant damage there, but on the flip side, Alariel's also taking quite a bit of damage as well. The Orc Air line is in position to support, whereas my Reavers are busy shooting at infantry rather than shooting at Azag, so it's going to end up being a really close fight here, despite the healing and everything, and Azag was in melee long enough to be able to pop at least one Wa here, so even if his units aren't getting the melee attack buff, which I mean he himself certainly will get the advantage of that, units on the ground will get a bit of extra speed and melee attack at the very least. You can see here Azag just about finishes off Alariel, but unfortunately she does manage to squeak away, grab a quick Earth Blood, and then Azag gets finished off by the Phoenix. So a bit of an unfortunate circumstance for the Greenskins out of the gates, but they do still have this Orc Shaman to support leadership on foot, and of course he also has some abilities as well, some spells to support and so on. Reavers here up against Biggins won't do the best. Obviously Biggins with their heavy weapon strength and anti-large will be able to cut through those Reavers pretty efficiently, but we have been able to clean up some of these other units. You can see here taking some damage on these Illyrian Reavers, so it's definitely been pretty even trade so far, and the fact that Alariel is also so low on HP means the balance power is going to be pretty significantly affected. Likewise, we've got a couple of engagements underway here. You can see the Warlords boys kind of getting side-shotted by those Illyrian Reavers, which is great for me. Black Orcs obviously will cut through a Spearman, but at least it will take them some time due to the Spearman's high melee defense. Looks like that martial prowess just now dropping. Meanwhile, on the back line, I'm pushing these Dragon Princes through, the Sprite Princes, or Mountain Dew Princes if you will, to try and get in this back line of archers here, but there are some Black Orcs to protect, so we're going to go ahead and just directly hammer and anvil them both with both units of Dragon Princes. And since Alariel's pretty low on HP, I'm like, okay, with these 2 units of Princes to protect, it's probably pretty safe to come in here and drop the Star of Avalorn to get some healing on both herself and these 2 units of Dragon Princes. Normally I would say you want to use them as intended as shock cavalry and not just sit in a sustained melee like this, but of course with that healing we will be able to take advantage of that there. Another Arcane and Forging, this time on the Orc Shaman, just to keep him from using his spells too much. Meanwhile, in the back line, you can see my Spearmen and Reavers have been dealt with pretty fairly. I'm pretty much out of ammo on the bow reavers, and almost all of the melee reavers are off the field. These biggins overchasing a little bit here, but we do still have a few remaining spearmen just kind of holding up the line here for a moment. But up here on the high ground, we do manage to get a pretty good break. Those black orcs that had been sandwiched from two sides just couldn't stand up to that heavy assault from those dragon princes, and now have been broken. Now the dragon princes are able to get a really nice downhill charge, skewer some of these foul goblins with their lances, and yeah, those rusty arrows are definitely going to be in a very uncomfortable situation, no doubt. You can see the orc shaman here trying to hold things together. There's a few orc boys rallying in support as well, but the leadership is just not there at this point. These orc boys getting rear charged by Illyrian reavers, Lariels in here as well. Just really not a good situation, and while the balance power had been pretty close there up until the end, did take a pretty decisive swing there, and the greenskin player decided to admit defeat. So well played, my opponent. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that one. We can all pray that I can receive some of Lariel's light to help heal up my voice so that you guys won't be subjected to this tomorrow. But at the very least, hey, you've got some content to watch and enjoy. And yeah, in terms of the army breakdown here, I mean, obviously the Reavers did an okay job, but most of the heavy lifting was done by the Dragon Princes. And I mean, obviously, Alariel and the Flamespire Phoenix able to snipe Azag in the beginning, very key. Greenskins tend to have low leadership, obviously, so if you can take out their leadership early, definitely a pretty big effect. I mean, beyond the Dragon Princes, Reavers, not really too much to talk about there. For my opponent's build, the Biggins did reasonably well. Black Orcs did rack up quite a few kills in some circumstances, but just the loss of leadership there was pretty rough. And taking Lords in the air up against the High Elves can be very, very risky for any faction, especially for the Greenskins, due to a couple of factors. Number one, the Greenskins can't support them at all in the air. I mean, if you take Azag up in the air, he is flying solo. There's nothing you can take that can support him in an air melee engagement. The only way you can really support him in the air is with missiles, and I mean, you do have some decent missile options, but you don't really want to be relying on that necessarily. So it is pretty risky, just due to the fact that he's alone, and the High Elves do have strong anti-air tools, right? They have Lore of High Magic, which has access to Tempest. They have very strong flying monsters in and of themselves. Even Alariel up on the Phoenix is no pushover. I mean, you know, baseline 45-47 is not amazing, but keep in mind that's without martial prowess, and with that active, she will go significantly up. Does she actually get martial prowess on the Eagle? Looks like she might not. I wonder if they change that at some point. Looks like maybe she doesn't get access to it, so you maybe take back what I said before, but at the very least she can still bring Arcane Unforging and Tempest potentially. So I do think that Azag, while he can be a pretty decent pick here, up in the air is potentially very risky. Personally, I quite like Grimgor or Skarsnik here, just because they are relatively survivable and cheap. You can take them both for relatively cheap. 1310 for Skarsnik, how I like to take him, or you could take Grimgor for about 1660, but in either case, the number one thing I would recommend in this matchup is to take the Arachnarok Queen. This heavy anti-large armor piercing with poison is really hard for the High Elves to deal with. Sisters of Averlorn are really the only truly good answer to the Arachnarok Queen, and with the Greenskins you can very much take a wide enough build that they're going to have a hard time you know, keeping those archers operational. So just as kind of an example here, if we go with Skarsnik and we've got the Queen here, then we can probably go with an Orc Shaman. I do like Lore Bigwa here. We're going to go with Brain Burst and Fists of Gork only, just to make him nice and cheap. You could probably take him on the boar, just to give him some extra mobility. We'll do that for the time being. A couple Black Orcs, pretty solid. I like the pick of the Skulkers as well. We're going to go with a whole bunch of Gobos, just to fill out some extra numbers as well. We definitely want some archers here, and things are looking a little expensive, so let's get some light cav. The Moon Howlers might be pretty solid here, maybe some Spider Rider archers, something like that. You could maybe play around with this composition a little bit, maybe cut some of your backline archers to go more skirmish heavy, like with something like this. Maybe you take the 2 Regiment of Renown skirmish cav, and then just a bunch of Spider Riders to run around the back line to be annoying. I don't know. There's sort of some different directions you could go with it, but the main thing is just to take a lot of numbers along with the Arachnarok Queen and really just try and use, you know, that stacked on top of some Black Orcs to really grind down the High Elves. It's worked pretty well for me in the past. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, though. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you do like the sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button, so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. If you want to help support the channel in a more personal way, help me pick up some new equipment like cameras and so forth, be sure to check out the Patreon or become a channel member on YouTube. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.